Hello everybody, this is Catholic Dad, episode number 427, The Perfect Human Experiment, Authoritarianism and Disgust, The Perfect Human Experiment. This is what I want to talk about today. So it's been a while since I've been on the video, almost half a year. I took a little bit of time off with all the craziness in the world. I just kind of took some time, prayer, penance, and been working super hard inside and outside of work. And so, but I'm back for a little bit at least. You know, I want to talk about the Perfect Human Experiment. I read a bunch of books this year. Two of the most prominent ones are Live Not by Lies and The Devil and Karl Marx. If you want to check out any real good books about totalitarianism in Eastern Europe last century, check those two books out by two notable authors, Rod Dreher and the other guy, gosh, I can't even recall his name right now, but Live Not by Lies and The Devil and Karl Marx. And so those are the books I read. Well, anyway, so The Perfect Human Experiment, this is Jordan Peterson gave a video years and years and years ago, and he talks about personality traits of disgust and authoritarianism, okay? And so these things are highly correlated with one another. And so how correlated are they? They're correlated about a 0.7, okay? Now, repeat after me, everybody. Correlation does not equal causation. Say it again, correlation does not equal causation. So if two things are completely or highly correlated, it doesn't mean that they caused one another. You know, like the price of tea in China could be going up, and it could also be, and the monetary expansion in the United States of America could be happening, and these things could be correlated, say 0.9 or something like that. But the price of tea in China might not have anything to do with the expansion of the money supply in America, and vice versa. They're just correlated over time. Let's just say that. Like they don't cause causation to one another, and that's just an example. Maybe it does cause it, but nonetheless, when you have a high correlation, you can't imply causation. And so a good example, by the way, is intelligence. We can test for intelligence rather well, actually, and good grades. Okay, so these are highly correlated, and it makes sense. Smart people get good grades, right? But not all smart people get good grades, and not all dumb people get bad grades. And so the correlation of intelligence and good grades is like 0.68 or something like that, or 0.65, and that's a high correlate, by the way. Well, anyway, the correlation between disgust and authoritarianism, these are both personality traits, is 0.7, which is higher than the correlation of intelligence and good grades, which should make everybody go, whoa, let's study this a little bit more, people. And so what is disgust? Well, disgust is something in a population of people, a personality trait. You can actually measure it. But if you think about people like this, like things like texture in their mouth make them, I don't like that, that's disgusting. Or obsessive hand washers because they're afraid of germs and disease, and so on and so forth. Or people that they see a fly on a salad outside at a picnic, and then they won't eat it because if they find that disgusting. That's disgust. And certain people have more disgust personality trait than other people. And you know, every personality trait can be disordered in both directions. Like some people might be able to eat like one of those big cicadas or one of those big cockroaches on like Fear Factor, and they could eat it. That's disgusting, right? That's pathologic in one direction. You wouldn't usually eat those. And then other people like they can't eat like a macaroni salad that had a fly on it or something like that. And so it could be pathologic in both directions. Well, anyway, and what's authoritarianism? And authoritarianism is a personality trait that you can measure as well. And authoritarianism is essentially like your capacity to ask for strong rules, strong government, central authority. And so the authoritarians, think about it, it's people that are super strong authoritarians were people like Hitler or Stalin or Lenin or Trotsky or Pol Pot or Pinochet or Mussolini. And so these are the authoritarians. Now, so what's the perfect human experiment? Well, anyway, in one of the books I read this year, there was a book called The Origins of Totalitarianism, okay? The Origins of Totalitarianism is a book written in 1951, and essentially it was right after, Nazi Germany and like the Red Scare and all the other stuff with communism, and the whole world was going toward authoritarianism at that point in time. And so there were two preconditions for people that would accept authoritarianism in a population, and or totalitarianism in a population. Number one was they don't trust their government. Well, that's an easy one, right? Like, who trusts their government around the world? Very few people, right? And number two is loneliness. Like, if you have a lonely population that doesn't trust its government, like loneliness is so painful to the human heart that people will ask for almost anything to get out of their lonely state, even a strong man, whether it be on the progressive left, the hard left, or whether it be on the hard right, like fascism. So it's like whether it's fascism or communism or whatever else, or progressive socialism, people that are lonely will ask for authoritarian leaders to get them out of their loneliness. Like, just end it now. I want to be happy again. And so, anyway, we're sitting in a perfect human experiment. And what is this perfect human experiment? And I do want to say one thing as a precondition to all of this. My dad, he's a street cop, NYPD. He was like in the South Bronx. He was a rough and tumble dude. And he used to say, hey, let me tell you something, Catholic Dad. He'd use my name. And he'd say, he said that criminals are opportunists. Don't give them opportunity. It's just the way it works. And I think that's true of authoritarians as well. People who are authoritarian are opportunists as well. And Rahm Emanuel once famously quipped, don't let a good crisis go to waste. If you have authoritarian tendencies, use the crisis to your advantage. So this is the perfect human experiment. People that are disgust, that have the personality trait of disgust, are highly correlated, 0.7. That's almost as high as the correlate as you can get in any kind of personality trait, are highly correlated, 0.7, with authoritarianism. And therefore, they found populations with high incidences of disease in a population also tend to trend toward the authoritarian side of the political spectrum. Okay, so if these things are correlated highly, and not necessarily causation, but if there is some causative factor, if you introduce an infective bug or some kind of stimulus into a population where people's disgust personality traits are triggered, and trigger is probably the right word here, then also their authoritarian tendencies, their capacity to give up their personal autonomy, freedom, and liberty might also be triggered. And therefore, if you wanted to trigger the authoritarian tendencies of a population, you need to convince it that there's a highly infectious agent within the population. Now, the other thing that you could do is because loneliness is highly correlated with going towards authoritarianism or totalitarianism, is you make the people lonely. So the perfect human experiment is this. Yeah, you create a virus in a lab somewhere on the other side of the planet, wherever it may be. You release it upon the world population. And then you convince everybody that this bug is awful, which this bug might be awful. COVID could actually be awful. It's killed a lot of people, and it's coming back again for sure. It's coming back again. So you trigger the authoritarian tendencies of the people in the nation, in the world, right? And then you make them lonely. So you use governmental agencies to lock them down, mask them, not have group meetings, and so on and so forth. And so if you wanted to take over a population of people, and in the perfect human experiment, I think probably there's some smart people that are behind this. What you would do is release an infectious agent that triggers their authoritarianism, right? And then you make them lonely. And then you have the capacity to take over an entire population of people through edicts and force of law. That's the perfect human experiment. We'll see if it actually plays out, because there's a lot of people in this population, at least in my population, that don't have high disgust personality trait, and therefore they're not authoritarians. So these authoritarians are going to get resistance. The problem with this whole thing is authoritarians tend to be far more evil than people that are non-authoritarians. And so when my dad said, criminals are opportunists, authoritarians are opportunists too. And so they will push and push and push and take every opportunity to get what they want, which is the seizure of liberties and freedoms. And so this is just something to think about. Look at the people around you in your life, those who are highly afraid of COVID, those who are not so afraid of COVID, those who have gotten COVID, and so on and so forth. And, let me just do that. And just see who probably has a higher disgust personality trait, and B, who has a higher authoritarian tendency. And this is not something to make light of, because right now in the world, they're actually building COVID camps in Australia. I don't know if you saw that. And they're now talking about they might build camps for the unvaccinated. So when people have authoritarian tendencies, they come out and they might actually remove the liberties of those who want to resist them. And a good historical example of this is the ghettos in Poland the Jewish ghettos in Poland that were created by the German military and police force. This is a book called Ordinary Men. You could read about it. They utilized epidemics and the Department of Health in Germany to actually quarantine the Jews because they were considered dirty, disgusting, essentially, and that there was a typhus epidemic or breakout in Poland and Germany at that point in time. And so they used the force of the state through the health departments to quarantine the Jewish people into their ghettos. And when the Jewish people were starving inside those ghettos, they eventually, because they had to come out to go get food, but then they had to start marking them, right? Marking them with, certain, flagging the Jews with papers, so they knew who they were. And when they were starving so much that they still came out anyway, the health department with the government officials, actually, there were shoot-to-kill orders on the Jewish people that tried to leave the ghettos because there was a noxious infectious agent. This is not small stuff, people. This is a really big deal. So when I say we're in the perfect human experiment, we've already lived it. We're living in it again. And if you have authoritarian tendencies and you want these unmasked, unvaccinated people to go away just so you don't have to deal with them anymore, or you want a strong man to step up and make all these edicts, you got to wonder where this is going to go, because it's not going to stop at COVID camps. I can guarantee you that. And the people that are forced to these COVID camps away from their family members and their society, they're not going to be happy about it. And then they're going to be starving, and they're going to be hungry, and they're going to try to get out of these COVID camps. And so this is just something to think about. The world is descending very quickly into a very nasty and scary place. And you got to really think about that. And I don't know, is this the perfect human experiment? It may be. Well, anyway, this is Catholic Dad making you think about it. Please like or subscribe, get the Mass, and pray the daily rosary. And God bless you all. And do take take mortal sin off your soul. Give it to a priest in the confessional. God bless you all. Take care.